Today is Friday, August 27th, 2021. My name is Lori Kurtz. My pronouns are she, hers. Would you please introduce yourself, tell us your pronouns if you care to, and tell us all the things you do?
Well, hello. I am a Velvet Thorn, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And I am a burlesque performer, an actor, an aerial circus performer, and singer. I do a lot of things that are fun on the stage.
And what is burlesque?
Well, to me, burlesque can be many things. I think that it's really what the performer wants to make it. But the main thing that I try to explain to people that have never seen burlesque before, or they just think, oh, I saw the movie Burlesque with Christina Aguilera, yeah, whatever her name is. I try to say, well, this is what I do. I get on stage and then I strip off all my clothes till I am in pasties and a G string. And that is what burlesque is to me. It is a theatrical striptease. It embodies musical theater, dancing, cabaret, and just regular club stripping or club dancing, but uh, in a theatrical way that really gets the attention of the audience and kind of takes them on a ride. So yeah, I think that we have a special relationship with our audience members, and that's what makes burlesque a little different than other kind of types of cabaret or theater that you would see.
How do you describe the kind of burlesque that you do?
So the type of burlesque that I do is that I am more of a neo burlesque. So there's a difference between classical, and that's more of the I strip off this and then I strip off that and then I walk to this part of the stage and then I walk to that part of the stage, and it can be big band, and that's kind of what we think of if we see people like Dita Von Teese or Dirty Martini, those kinds of folks. But in a more neo burlesque, you might pick music that you wouldn't necessarily think is a burlesque song, like maybe dubstep or hip hop or something like that. And then also I when I think of neo burlesque, I think of it as being more free to express your body in maybe more dance like ways. So it's kind of an evolution of taking different styles of dance and theater and making it into something that is I think a little bit more intimate with the audience, or making a political statement, or kind of embodying a theme kind of thing. So that's what I think of when I think of the type of burlesque that I do, and the neo and being more neo burlesque.
And why do you do burlesque? What does it give you?
So burlesque gives me power. It makes me feel really good. And I think as a young woman, it can be hard because I started when I was really young. I was 22 when I first did my first dance, was in my first show. And I think that coming from my acting background, it really gave me a lot of power to get on the stage, get some eyes on me that were not in a how can I say this? The gaze was not objectifying me because I was objectifying myself. I was putting myself in this position of power for me to move exactly the way that I wanted to move. And so it really did give me a sense of power. It gives me also such a surge of creativity because I love music and I love to listen to different songs. And then, but I'm not a great dancer. I've never been a dance class kind of gal. So I think that burlesque can be a really good tool in between, being this professional dancer, great, whatever you're doing. If you don't have any technique but you really want to move to the music and you can feel the music and you want to connect with the audience and you want all the eyes on you, I think that burlesque is a great way to feel powerful, to feel sexy, and to perform and be creative.
So where were you born and where did you grow up?
So I was born in Willits, California, and then I grew up in Sonoma County, which is right in the North Bay area of California.
Mhm.
And I'm a small town girl. That's all I got to say about that. I definitely thought, oh, I'm going to move to a big city one day and be part of a big theater. And I've just always lived in small towns, and I like I like that feel. I like to be able to see the stars and, just kind of hear the animals all night and that sort of thing. So, yeah.
And what brought you to Oregon?
So I moved to Oregon because I wanted to go to school for theater. I ended up getting my bachelor's degree at Southern Oregon University. So that's really what brought me to Southern Oregon and Oregon itself, the theater.
Yeah, yeah. And then how did you get started in burlesque once you got to Oregon?
So even though I'm a small town girl, I like being next to the city. So when I was younger, maybe about 19, I was in San Francisco and I saw Dita Von Teese do a show. And I got to experience what live burlesque is. And for years, it was in my head. I thought, I could do this. I could do this. I can't dance. I don't have any skills, but I can do this. So I really had this want and this desire, and I tried to manifest it. And I think the small thing, the thing about living in a small town is that sometimes there's just not as many opportunities. So it's kind of like, well, I might never be able to, get this. But I did see that there was a burlesque show at this little bar in Ashland, Oregon called Oberon's. And there was a little burlesque show there. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to ask these people about what they're doing. But I did not have the courage to talk to anyone. And everyone was from Eugene. So I was like, oh, well, I don't know if I'm ever going to find it. And then I ended up going on Facebook of all places. And there was a audition group, as there is on Facebook for most towns, most counties. And somebody by the name of Miss Darby Doll posted that she wanted people for her burlesque show. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is my chance. So I just messaged her. I think I was the only one who messaged her. So I was just like, I need to do this. I don't know anybody. I don't know you. Nobody at my school knows what burlesque is or does any of that. So I really felt like a fish out of water, but I was like, I can do this. I remember I had work and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to get out of work. I have to do this show or else I'm never going to do it. That's really what I thought. I was like, I have to do it now or I'm never going to do it. So that's how I got started in the Oregon burlesque or the Southern Oregon burlesque scene and burlesque in general for the first time ever.
And when you showed up and were practicing with the troupe, how did that all unfold?
So I just showed up to the show and well, I met Miss Darby Doll at her home and she was so lovely and she really took me under her wing and drove me to the town over 45 minutes over from Ashland and Grants Pass. And the only time I'd ever rehearsed was at my house. And I didn't really have a costume. I had a dress that I wore to my 8th grade graduation. Weird. So I had this really cute, but it was like really like 60s and cute. I had a good sense of fashion when I was younger. But yes, I had this dress and I picked out this Lana Del Rey song that I really loved. And then I just started doing it. And I just had never done anything like that in public before. And everyone was very sweet. I remember being backstage and meeting other dancers like Leather Pixie and Sunday Sparkles. And I was just so nervous, but they were so sweet. Just, yeah, it was a good starting off point that night.
Mhm. Yeah. And then did you study or take classes or how did you expand your performing career in burlesque from that?
So I just kind of flew by the seat of my pants, Lori. I there weren't any classes, so I was really just getting the experience from doing shows. And after that, I think that Darby knew that I had a real passion for this and I wanted to do this. And she let me perform in the monthly show in Grants Pass. So I was kind of able to get this really nice gig and have something for me every month so that I could just get experience in a small town, small audience. So that's kind of what I did. And then I was juggling that with school. So I kind of had this other side. It's like, I do burlesque over here, but then I do school and I'm trying to do plays and do theater on the other side. So it was definitely a balancing act. I think that if I had been in a bigger city, I probably would have taken classes and been able to kind of see more shows. But the most burlesque that I was getting was the shows I was in. So that was kind of like what I had available to me, and I was lucky enough to be a part of the community doing it. So
Right. Did you ever go to the BurlyCon conference?
yes, so before I had my first show, I bought a ticket to go to BurlyCon because I first heard about BurlyCon in Sonoma County. I did end up taking one burlesque class before I moved to Southern Oregon. And I thought, oh my gosh, there's this burlesque dancer in Sonoma County where I'm living right now. And I'm so excited. And then she moved up to Portland. That was Eva Delicious, or Delicious, sorry, Eva Delicious. And yeah, I was so disappointed that she moved up to Portland. Not that, yeah, I still work with her today and she comes down to Sonoma County where I live right now all the time. So pre-COVID. So that's really great. So I ended up taking that class, and that's when she mentioned BurlyCon. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to BurlyCon. I don't know how. I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I don't know anyone. But I'm going to do it. And I ended up meeting Darby and Sunday Sparkles before that, so I was able to kind of shack up with Sunday for the conference. And I had done my first show, I think 2 months before the conference. So that was a really good place for me to be in. I was really beginning this, planting the seeds and starting this new beginning. So that was really cool. And I loved BurlyCon. It's the only time I've ever gone. But I really enjoyed myself, and I loved just being in that culture of burlesque because I felt like I hadn't really been involved or in that culture before. And it's awesome. It's awesome.
Great. And so, how did you pick your stage name?
So I remember picking it, and I actually really love the name Thorn. And in high school, my French name was Epine, which is French for thorn. And because I love that episode of Scooby Doo where they have the witch band, and they're like in Salem. And anyways, and the lead singer's name is Thorn. So I was like, I really like this name. My goth girl is coming out. My inner witch is coming out here. And then I also really liked the name Velvet. I thought, oh, I should be Red Velvet. And you go through all these names and then you realize other people have the name. So I thought, okay, and I remember just being like, oh, well, I like having these words together because it's pointy and soft. So it's like sexy, but like I'll kind of, yeah, I'll get you. Don't get too close. So that's what I liked about my name. And so luckily I've been able to pick it out, and I haven't had to change it since. So.
And outside of performing burlesque, what just a sort of a snapshot of your, I don't know, real life outside of burlesque? Do you have a day job, or what do you do to support your burlesque art?
So right now I am taking a hiatus with burlesque because we're in kind of the middle of COVID right now. So I lost a lot of my creativity and drive to do that. So unfortunately, I wish that burlesque could be my main job. And I think that a lot of burlesque dancers feel that way. Like, I want to just support myself burlesque. And I think it's amazing the people who can do that. I wish that our culture was more set up to support artists. And so that's what I want to say about that. And then for me personally, I still love doing theater, and I was auditioning for shows and doing some Zoom theater. And then my day job, I am going back to school, and I'd like to actually get my master's and become a theater teacher possibly. So I really do enjoy movement, and I think that that kind of playing around kind of plays in with burlesque, how you like move and you find your character on stage. And I think that that would be a really cool job for me. So I'm looking into applying to schools, and I'm going back to my local JC, and then I'm also like working at a plant shop. So you kind of learn to juggle to juggle some stuff when you are in arts and performance.
Yeah. Um, and you sort of mentioned that COVID pandemic has affected your creative process. Can you talk about that a little?
Yeah, well, since we weren't allowed to do um, shows in person for so long, and then things kind of started feeling a little bit better, and now they're kind of shutting. We're just not sure. So in turn, I feel not sure, and I really do love doing these performances in person. I have been able to do a Zoom show, but I have to say it was kind of anticlimactic. And it was actually really cool because I was able to edit my piece and make it look like a music video. And that is something that I've always had since I was a little girl, is listening to music and seeing visuals, and it's like a film. And that's kind of how I put my acts together. So I really am interested in doing more of that. And I do feel a little creative drive to be like, oh, like I'm listening to this song and I can see a music video in my head, and I could totally make this something different outside of the stage. I think that it's just a little bit like you got to project management. Whereas if you know, okay, I have a show, I'm going to go up on stage, I'm going to do it, it's going to be great, and then I'm going to get out of there. Whereas if you are like, okay, I'm going to film this thing, you really have to manage it differently. So when I did do the Zoom show, it felt like so exciting once I edited it, and then I was like, oh, this isn't a show, but the show felt different. I think the show format feels different. And the last live burlesque performance that I was in, I was actually a proposal performance, and I proposed to my sweetie. So it was kind of like boom, boom, like best show ever. COVID is happening and shutting it down. So I think that let out a little bit of air out of my balloon.
Mhm.
But it was also nice to kind of take a hiatus and think, oh, what do I like about burlesque? What do I really think about it? What is my heart saying? And it's still saying that when this is all done, I'm definitely getting back out there. you know
Yeah. Yeah. So you've talked a little bit about this, but I'll ask, you know, directly. People in burlesque say it empowers them. Your thoughts on that?
so I think that burlesque is absolutely empowering. Like I said before, when I get up on the stage, I feel people's eyes on me, and I take their energy, and they want me to take their energy because they're excited, and they're like looking, they're looking for something. So, so you can kind of like set up those expectations and give them, the end result. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like the tease. Oh, you want me to take off my bra? Oh, maybe I shouldn't. Oh, okay, I guess I will. And then I was like, yay. So I think that it's a real confidence booster. And when I tell women that I do burlesque, even if they don't do burlesque, and usually like kind of middle-aged women, they're like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. How did you get into that? What is that like? They're so curious. And I just think, okay, this is for you. There's a spark, and there's something in that name burlesque, and it being a sexual performance, not sexual in like having sex, but I should say a sensual performance, and a way for us to act that we don't get to act as as cis women, and just femininity in general. It is sometimes not okay to be a woman, or to have sexual feelings, or be sexual in any form, because you might be labeled as some derogatory words, and it makes a lot of people fearful. And so I think that what burlesque brings to the table is a chance for you to be in public, and I honestly think that the stage is the safest place for any woman. I think that it's because if somebody's going to mess with you, there is a crowd of people that is like, those audience members are the most supportive people, and they're not going to let that happen to you. So I really think that I think it's empowering in that way of like, okay, I have all these people behind me who are whooping and hollering at me while I'm, allowed to be a sexual person, because that's in our nature. And I think that there's if people want to express that, that's awesome. And if they don't want to express that, that's totally fine too. But burlesque gives us who want to express that tools. And so that's how I think that it's empowering for me, and possibly for other people doing burlesque, because it explodes people's ideas and stereotypes of us, who want to express our femininity or even our masculinity in ways that are not, in the gender constructs.
Yeah. Well, that then leads me to the question. Before I go there, so empowering, do you have an act or a routine that expresses that? Can you describe it?
So for me, I think that all of my routines are empowering, and I can tell you specifically why. I think that it's empowering because I get to choose what I wear. I get to choose how I look. I get to choose how I move, and I can change any of that in a moment. Maybe not my costume, but how I move. I can move any way that I want, and that, I think that is power. Like, I relate that to theater, where you have to look a certain way, the director's telling you what to do, you have to move like this, you have to look like this. You don't really get to control how you are being seen on the stage as a performance art, but in burlesque you absolutely can control all of that. And so that's why I think that all of my acts are empowering. And I think that especially when the energy comes over me and I get to move, that there's just something in that live performance that like touches my soul and my being, that I have to express. And I think that that is the most powerful thing of all, especially if I have a message. I do actually, there is one song that I do a routine to, that I do think is extremely empowering, and it's to a Pussifer song, and it's called Moma Said, and it's a man singing, but it's about how feminine, to me, I think of it as femininity is going to rise up and change is coming, and you masculine folks better be ready. You better be ready for change. change has come. Mama said change has come. So, yeah, so I really think of it as like when I do that routine, I try to express to any of like my masculine folks out in the audience, like, this is the power of femininity. And we are not weak. Femininity is not weak. And there is a change coming. So even if I can kind of like touch anyone's mind for a second to like be like, oh, like I'm waking up. Maybe I can see something changing in our culture by seeing this young woman dance or owning her body or what's going on with the song or something. That um, that particular act is probably the most empowering to me because I do have such a connection with the song and the material, and I like that I look so beautiful and ethereal. I'm like wearing white and like I have lights and it's very fairy, but then I'm like my dancing is really hard and the song is intense, and I really try to have all the, emotions with it too. So that's what makes it really beautiful and empowering to me.
Great. Well, I think that leads right into, how burlesque can be a force for social change. People have said that to me. You clearly think that. How do you want to talk about burlesque as social change?
Yeah, so I really find it so encouraging to just see art and having places where people can be exactly as they need to be. No changing, maybe not exactly as they need to be. I I guess that people also need that in their regular lives because, like, when I come out on stage, I'm like, oh, I have makeup on, and I'm Velvet Thorn. But they do need to be in places where they can creatively express themselves exactly as they need to do, and they have messages that they need people to listen to. And I think for 4 or 5 minutes, you have that person's in the audience's attention, their full attention. And whatever you need to get across to them, whatever, you need to evoke as a human being for them to see, like, you have that chance for them to see you exactly as you want to be seen in that space. So that's how I think that it can be a force for social change. I also think that it brings a lot of people together in positive ways. Like there's different festivals like queer burlesque festivals and disability awareness festivals and the political festivals, like the body political festivals. So there's just all sorts of things that people can, or Black burlesque festivals. Yeah. So there's all sorts of things that people can be a part of, and how create a space for them to be seen. So that's mostly how I think that it can be a force for social change.
Yeah. And so what are the challenges facing burlesque today?
Well, I think that one of our challenges is that no one knows about burlesque. So I think that this work that you're doing, Lori, just kind of bring it back to you for a second, is awesome, because I think that you're really explaining to people in depth about, what burlesque is to, and it can be different to many different folks because there's so many different types of performers. But I think that that's one of the biggest challenges that we face. Dita Von Teese is probably one of our biggest American burlesque artists, and no, not a lot of people, the majority of folks don't know who she is, and they don't know burlesque is still going on. And I think that another thing is that we don't really have our own spaces right now. We depend on like theaters. They have, yeah, if you have a theater company, you need a theater. So you have a space, if you can make that happen. Like, but if you do burlesque, you're kind of like going to different bars and you're going here and you're going there. And it can, like, as a performer, it can be a little bit like, oh, maybe I'm performing at this place that doesn't really have a dressing room, or I'm going to get harassed. As you know, I'm perfectly safe on the stage, but I might get harassed, like, as I'm trying, half naked, trying to find the door to the to the dressing room or the bathroom or wherever you're changing. So I think that it can be hard, really, really hard, because it is such a hustle sometimes in certain communities to get, your shows going if you're a producer. And I think that's also one of the reasons why I've felt so stagnant, is because I'd love to teach, and I'd love to do shows, but I don't really feel comfortable yet finding those places where, and that support network, because you really do need a support network. If people don't know about burlesque, they're like, oh, well, you're just, you just like to do this because you like to be sexual or something. And it's like, no, it's a lot more. It's a lot more. So I think that is one of the biggest challenges facing burlesque today, is that we, as burlesque artists, we need our own spaces to do this, to do our art.
And so then the final question, what do you wish the general public would understand about burlesque?
So I think that I hope that the general public, well, first, I wish that they knew what burlesque was, and neo burlesque and what it's kind of turning in today. And then I also hope that taking your clothes off and doing these theatrical striptease was a little less stigmatized. So I hope that in the future, that the majority of American audiences and audiences all around the world can really, because burlesque, I think in certain countries is even outlawed, not even allowed to do it. Like Singapore, I think they just legalized it. And so I really do hope that audiences can be more accepting and open to what burlesque has to teach us. And I think also open to what beautiful art it can expose people to, beautiful people. So
Great. Velvet Tarn, thank you so very much for taking the time to do this.
thank you so much, Lori. It was so good talking to you.